that they were told by the Communist Party officials that those officials feel troops can kill up to 200,000 people here without suffering any repercussions. They also told the students, reportedly, that they have ordered street cleaners to come into the square tomorrow, Monday, and wash the square off, which suggests that they intend to clear the students off sometime overnight. And they also told the students, reportedly, that they have readied prisons for the students to be moved into. The students are now breaking up into committees, holding meetings to decide their strategy. The rumor floating about is that the government will move in at 5 a.m., which is 4 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States. And at this point, the students are merely trying to rally more citizens to their cause to, as I said, form a human wall to keep out any troops which may want to come into the square. Reporting live from Beijing, this is Brian Jenkins.
Thank you, Brian. Pro-democracy demonstrators in China are drawing support from many quarters, including Hong Kong. Police in Hong Kong say at least 100,000 people marched through the downtown district today to show opposition to martial law in Beijing. Hong Kong police said demonstrators from all sections of the British territory and from the nearby Portuguese enclave of Macau took part in the sympathy march. Both territories are scheduled to be returned to China in the next decade.
The protesters in Beijing are getting a lot of support and encouragement from Chinese students who live in America. An estimated 3,500 people gathered in front of the Chinese embassy in Washington yesterday. The protesters said they were strongly opposed to martial law being declared in China. They were also critical of President Bush, saying he had been too quiet about the protesting. Another smaller demonstration was held in San Diego in front of the Chinese consulate. The marchers held signs and chanted protest slogans. The rally was peaceful. There were no arrests. And in a Chinese neighborhood in Atlanta, about 200 Chinese college students marched. Many of the demonstrators attend Emory University and Georgia Tech, two schools with large Chinese student enrollments. President Bush and French President Mitterrand are scheduled to speak today at Boston University, where they will also receive honorary degrees. CNN White House correspondent Frank Sesno has more now on the meeting of the two leaders in Maine.
President Bush steered clear of questions about the situation in China as he greeted French President Mitterrand at the sprawling Bush residence in Kennebunkport, Maine. But officials say the two leaders discussed the situation privately, agreeing that restraint in China should be the order of the day. As China's showdown with itself persists, restraint is also guiding Washington's response. After the meetings in Maine, Secretary of State James Baker was asked if the U.S. should be encouraging the student protesters.
I think we should be expressing our support for freedom of speech, for democratization, and for freedom of assembly, and that's what we're doing. I do not think that we should in any way be seen to be somehow inciting to riot.
The administration is trying to walk a fine line here and is carefully measuring the signals it sends to the protesters and to the Chinese leadership. But some complain the message is too weak. A group of Chinese students from Boston delivered a letter urging the president to do more.
I would like the president to issue immediately a very strong warning against the Chinese, a condemnation of the use of violence, and also the warning of using severe sanctions against the Chinese government should it employ massive military force against peaceful demonstrators.
Presidential spokesman Marlon Fitzwater received the letter and said he would deliver it. President Bush met with Premier Li Peng when he visited China in February. The Secretary of State says it's premature to conclude how the leadership may be changing.
It's a little bit unclear exactly what the situation is, as between the hardliners on the one hand and those who profess to support more openness on the other.
But action taken by Chinese authorities to pull the plug on CNN and other Western television networks that were broadcasting live from Beijing has prompted a protest.
It is regrettable. We wish that had not been done.
Scenes like this one from Beijing have had a compelling impact. President Bush has been receiving regular updates from his national security advisor, Brent Scowcroft. Secretary of State Baker says what has unfolded in China this week may be irreversible.
When people taste the fruits of freedom, it's not our view that you can reverse that process.
Baker rejects suggestions that the administration's response to the crisis in China has been weak. But for now, the administration apparently feels it can do little more than watch the situation and urge caution, restraint, and dialogue. Frank Sesno, CNN, with the president in Kennebunkport, Maine.
The two leaders are scheduled to speak about 11:30 this morning. CNN will have live coverage of the address at Boston University.
When we come back, the Air Force is scheduled tonight to make another try at launching the Delta II rocket.
Also, settlement is reportedly near in the week-long strike by teachers in Los Angeles. Those stories and more in just a moment.